I have surely seen the misery of my people in Egypt.
Where was Moses when our sons were beaten?
They said you returned. Since then, the foremen demand more bricks. They are killing us with this labor. We need help.
And when Pharaoh strikes back, who pays? I did not come as a prince. Then why have you entered my court? You ask me to release the labor that feeds Egypt. Mark the doorway, dress for travel, and remain inside.
Moses! The Egyptians have followed us! Why did you bring us here?
Were there no graves in Egypt?
My Pharaoh! We cannot cross this wind! Then do whatever it takes! Find a way through! Move faster! The Lord is fighting for them!
I am sorry, my friend. I only pray that what comes next brings you no greater sorrow.
Father, whose story are you reading?
The story of Moses.
Moses, the man who led our people out of Egypt?
Yes. But there is something about him people often forget. Listen carefully, David. Moses was 80 years old
after years shepherding in Midian.
80? How could an old shepherd stand against Pharaoh?
Perhaps I should stop here. It sounds as though my story has already lost you.
No, Father, no! I was only teasing. Don't stop now.
So the old shepherd has your attention after all.
Yes, Father. Tell me what happened.
Good, because Moses did not begin before Pharaoh. His story begins much farther away, in the wilderness.
Jethro had watched Moses grow quiet whenever his thoughts wandered back toward Egypt. Exile gave Moses distance from Pharaoh,
lost my place.
but it never erased the burden he carried. The shepherd's staff in his hand had become the ordinary tool of an ordinary life. Yet Egypt remained unfinished business, even after years of safety among Jethro's household. The man who once fled for his life still remembered the suffering he left behind. For now, Moses was a shepherd, not a prince, prophet, or national leader. He could face east in silence, unaware that his exile was nearly over. Near Horeb, called the Mountain of God, Moses noticed fire burning inside a bush. The flock kept its distance, while Moses studied a sight that refused to behave naturally. He moved closer carefully, drawn by a fire that burned without consuming its branches.
Father, why didn't the fire consume the bush?
That was exactly what Moses wanted to know. So, back to our story. What Moses saw
Demanded an explanation, because ordinary desert fire should leave damage behind. No normal smoke or blackened branches explained what Moses was seeing before him. He searched for an ordinary cause, but the strange fire remained unchanged.
Wow. Wasn't Moses afraid?
Yes, he was. But courage does not mean you never feel afraid. It means fear does not get to choose your path. Now, where were we?
From the unseen presence, God called Moses by name twice.
Moses, Moses.
His answer was brief.
Here I am.
He made himself present before the one who had called. Before receiving a mission, Moses first loosened his sandals in obedience. God warned him not to come closer because this was no ordinary place.
I have surely seen the misery of my people in Egypt.
Their suffering was known before any rescue began. God said Moses would be sent back to Pharaoh. The command landed heavily on a man who had built his life around staying away. Moses asked the obvious question: who was he to confront the ruler of Egypt? He also knew belief would not come easily from people who had suffered for years. God gave Moses the divine name. I Am would be the authority behind his return.
Moses, cast your staff upon the ground and witness my power.
Then God commanded Moses to throw his staff to the ground. The moment it struck the earth, it became a living serpent before his eyes. He left the holy ground still afraid, but fear no longer had the final word. Moses started back toward Egypt, and Aaron came to meet him. The brothers reunited in the wilderness after years shaped by very different lives. Even when nearly everything else had changed, Moses told Aaron what had happened at Horeb.
The bush burned, but it did
and
not.
showed him the appointed signs. The long absence could not be ignored. Returning meant facing both family and history. Exodus says, God directed Aaron into the wilderness to meet Moses on the way. Back in Egypt, Moses and Aaron gathered Israel's elders and told them what God had said. Aaron explained that the God of their fathers had seen Israel's suffering and remembered them. Hope came with risk.
Your return may cost children who never fled.
Because Pharaoh still controlled the labor.
Where was Moses when our sons were beaten?
Some elders had every reason to ask what another confrontation might cost their families.
And when Pharaoh strikes back, who pays? You will. That is why I will not lie about the danger.
Exodus says the people believed, bowed down, and worshipped when they heard God had seen them. Then Moses and Aaron entered Pharaoh's court and delivered the demand that would define everything. The biblical Pharaoh is never named, leaving his historical identity uncertain to this day.
I did not come as a prince.
Moses came not to reclaim royal status, but to speak for an enslaved people.
Then why have you entered my court?
The issue before Pharaoh was simple and explosive.
The Lord, the God of Israel, says, "Let my people go." You ask me to release the labor that feeds Egypt. Who is this Lord? And why should Egypt obey him?
Pharaoh heard freedom as economic loss and a challenge to the structure of his kingdom. His answer exposed the conflict. He did not recognize the Lord's authority over Egypt. A later sign before the throne turned the contest from words to visible power.
You show me signs, but why should Egypt obey your God? Give me one reason I should let Israel go.
Aaron threw down his staff before Pharaoh, and it became a serpent before the whole court. Pharaoh could interpret hesitation as weakness, but the biblical contest was never about Moses' confidence.
Enough of these signs! Bring me my magicians!
What is this, a joke? Come on, Moses.
Exodus says Aaron's staff swallowed the magician's staffs, yet Pharaoh still refused to listen. Pharaoh's answer to the freedom demand was immediate. The Israelites' labor became even harder. He ordered that straw no longer be supplied, while the required brick quota remained unchanged. The people now had to gather their own straw, without any reduction in daily production.
They said you returned. Since then, the foremen demand more bricks. They are killing us with this labor. We need
You
help.
gave us hope, and Pharaoh used it as a whip.
Israel's first experience after Moses returned was not relief, but deeper pressure and anger. Moses heard the people's accusation and carried their complaint back before God. The chapter closes with hope badly shaken. At dawn, Moses met Pharaoh by the Nile, the river at the heart of Egyptian life. Pharaoh saw another demand. Moses saw another opportunity to warn before judgment came. Officials and river guards were witnesses, making this confrontation impossible to hide.
You trust this river more than any warning.
Ha ha! This river has fed our kingdom for generations. Your God has no power over this river.
Pharaoh turned away while Aaron prepared to strike the river before everyone watching. Exodus says the Nile and Egypt's stored waters were struck, and the water became blood. Water that had sustained households now became something people were warned not to drink. 7 days passed after the Nile was struck before the next plague was announced. Then frogs came up from the river and spread into houses across the land.
They are in the water, the beds, the ovens.
Bring Moses. Bring Moses.
For the first time, Pharaoh urgently called Moses and Aaron back into his presence. He promised release if Moses would pray for the frogs to be removed. When Moses let Pharaoh choose the time, the king astonishingly answered,
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. The frogs died. Relief came, and Pharaoh hardened his heart again once the pressure lifted. Next, Aaron struck the dust, and the ground itself became the source of another plague.
They bite the animals as fiercely as us.
People and animals were both affected by the tiny biting creatures described in Exodus. This time, the Egyptian magicians tried to imitate the sign and failed. Their inability marked a turning point. Even Pharaoh's experts could no longer reproduce everything. Dust that seemed ordinary became a torment spread across people, livestock, and open ground. No social rank offered protection when the plague reached both laborers and animals. The magicians finally told Pharaoh,
This
was the finger of God.
is the finger of God.
Their conclusion was clear, but Pharaoh still refused to listen to the warning. The land remained in turmoil, while Moses stood outside the panic he had predicted. Then, a new distinction appeared. Goshen would be spared, while swarms struck elsewhere in Egypt. One region remained clear, while swarms overwhelmed the land under Pharaoh's rule. Moses said the separation would make Pharaoh know that the Lord was present in the land. The scene also raises a human question the text does not directly answer about suffering and mercy.
I do not know.
Compassion matters here because the biblical story never requires Israel to celebrate ordinary Egyptian fear. Pharaoh bargained again. Relief came again. And once more, he refused to let Israel go. The next warning targeted Egypt's livestock, another foundation of food, transport, wealth, and agriculture. Moses announced
Tomorrow, disease will strike Egypt's livestock stock.
that a severe disease would strike Egyptian livestock on the following day. The warning created a choice:
What should we
ignore
do?
Moses again, or take precautions before the appointed time. Some workers could at least be moved away from danger, even if the plague itself remained unavoidable. Some workers tried shelter, though Exodus gives no specific protection method for this livestock plague.
Bring nothing from Goshen. Tomorrow, Egypt's
Moses repeatedly announced events before they happened. Night fell, with households waiting to discover whether the warning would again prove exact. Morning brought devastating loss among Egyptian livestock, while Israel's animals were reported unharmed. Judgment was no longer abstract when people faced the loss of animals they had raised for years. The survival of Israel's herds made the distinction between Goshen and Egypt visible again. Pharaoh investigated and learned that not even one of Israel's livestock had died. Yet grief does not become less real simply because it falls upon an oppressor's society. The biblical plague was presented as divine judgment, not as an ordinary epidemic spreading randomly. The empty pens left behind a silence that affected both wealth and daily survival. Then Moses and Aaron returned to Pharaoh's court, carrying soot from a furnace. Egypt's physicians and magicians could not simply treat what was about to spread across the population.
What remains for you to threaten?
Pharaoh remained defiant, even as the consequences of refusal moved closer to his own court. Before the hail, another warning came, this time with unusually practical instructions for survival. Moses announced the danger beforehand, so anyone who feared the word could respond. People and livestock were told to get under shelter before the storm arrived. Some officials may have feared panic, but ignoring the warning now carried an obvious risk.
Get the Israelite workers under shelter. We've seen what their God can do.
Previous plagues had given cautious listeners strong reason to take Moses' timing seriously.
You take orders. You take orders from Moses now?
The warning had been clear enough that every delay now carried consequences. Exodus describes hail-striking people, animals, plants, and trees left exposed in the fields. Pharaoh finally admitted wrongdoing, while the thunder and hail were still terrifying the land.
I will let the Israelites go if the storm stops.
Moses said the storm would cease after he left the city, demonstrating who controlled its end. The hail stopped, but Pharaoh hardened his heart again once immediate danger had passed. After the hail, Egypt's surviving crops and food reserves had become dangerously limited. Exodus notes that flax and barley were ruined, while later crops had not yet fully grown. Even Pharaoh's servants urged him to release the Israelites before Egypt was completely destroyed. Pharaoh still treated freedom as a threat to political authority and future control. He summoned Moses and Aaron.
Who exactly will go? Young and old, sons and daughters, flocks and herds.
But his question revealed another attempt to limit who could leave. Pharaoh offered to release only the men, keeping families behind as leverage. Moses refused the bargain.
Something is coming.
Exodus says the east wind blew all that day and all that night. By morning, the scale of what the wind had carried could no longer be mistaken. What sounded like a violent storm in the night was not rain. It was a vast swarm of locusts carried across Egypt by the wind. The locusts finally lifted, revealing what they had left behind. Egypt's fields stripped bare, its harvest reduced to dust. Across the ruined orchards, workers searched for anything worth saving, but even the last leaves and fruit were gone. With the devastation impossible to hide, Pharaoh came out among the ruined fields. Surrounded by the evidence of disaster, Pharaoh finally admitted his sin and begged Moses to ask that the plague be removed. Moses stepped away to pray, and as the wind strengthened, the surviving swarm began to turn away from Egypt. Once again, his promise disappeared with the danger. Then ordinary daylight returned for a moment, and Egypt tried to work again, until a new sign began at noon. Without sunset or storm, the light failed. Streets darkened so completely, the darkness did not pass with the hour. For 3 days, Egypt remained nearly motionless around small, rationed lamps, even inside the palace.
3 days, Father. How much more can Egypt endure?
Yet beyond the darkened districts, Goshen remained in light, making the division between Egypt and the Hebrews impossible to ignore. By the third night, fear had become exhaustion. Egypt waited for daylight, and for Pharaoh to finally change. When light returned, Pharaoh summoned Moses again, but instead of surrendering, he tried once more to bargain over freedom. Pharaoh offered to release the families while keeping their livestock behind. Moses refused the compromise. Freedom would include their households, their animals, and everything required for worship.
Get out of
Pharaoh's
my sight
patience broke.
and never return!
He ordered Moses away and threatened death if the Hebrew leader appeared before him again. Moses accepted the dismissal, but before leaving,
I am sorry, my friend. I only pray that what comes next brings you no greater sorrow.
he warned Pharaoh that one final plague still remained. Back in Goshen, Moses gathered the elders and told every household to prepare carefully for the night ahead. The instructions spread from family to family. Prepare the meal,
Mark the doorway, dress for travel, and remain inside. Choose a lamb for each household, and share with your nearest neighbor if needed.
Aaron reinforced the order.
If one house is too small, join the nearest family. No one eats alone.
Miriam showed exactly where the doorway must be marked, then instructed every family to enter and remain inside. As evening approached, ordinary supper became preparation for departure. Bread, meat, clothing, and travel bundles were readied together.
Why are we dressed to travel while we eat?
Because if Pharaoh sends us out tonight, we leave before morning.
Eliab explained the reason. If Pharaoh released them in the night, there would be no time to prepare before leaving. Before darkness deepened, Eliab marked the doorway exactly as instructed.
Stay near us tonight. Whatever happens outside, we do not open this door.
Across Goshen, marked doors closed one after another, while families ate quickly, fully dressed, and ready to leave. Prince Amun remained awake as midnight approached, while Pharaoh still refused to surrender. Then midnight arrived quietly, without an army or storm. Yet that silent hour became the turning point of the night. A cry broke the palace silence.
No!
Then another answered from the city, and grief began spreading from house to house. Soon the sound of mourning reached across Egypt, from royal chambers to workers' homes, as families gathered in shock. At his son's doorway, Pharaoh finally faced the loss within his own household.
Go! Bring Moses and Aaron to me! Tell them Egypt has suffered enough!
Pharaoh ordered messengers to find Moses.
Rise, leave my people. Take your families, your flocks, everything.
This time there was no bargain. Pharaoh told the
Go.
Hebrews to rise, take their families and livestock, and leave Egypt. Moses accepted the release and turned toward the doors, knowing they had to leave before grief hardened into anger. Before dawn, Egyptians urged the Hebrews onward, pressing valuables and clothing into their hands to speed their departure. Hori gave Eliab what he could and urged the family to go quickly, before the palace could change its mind again. There was no time even for bread to rise. Dough bowls were wrapped, bundles lifted, and familiar homes left behind. As dawn approached, Goshen poured into the roads. Families, carts, livestock, elders, and children moving east together.
Are you coming with us?
No. This is your road now. Do not stop for another order from Egypt.
Telling the boy that this road belonged to them now. Near Ramesses, scattered families gathered into organized lines. With thousands assembling, Miriam and the elders placed the elderly near carts and made sure confusion left no one behind. Among the loads they carried was Joseph's wrapped chest, fulfilling an old promise that his remains would leave Egypt with his people.
No household leaves alone. Keep your family line, and we move together.
The people would leave together. Then the front crossed beyond the city boundary, and for the first time, the road ahead belonged to the former slaves. When Natan looked back toward Egypt, Tirzah turned him forward, teaching him to measure freedom by the people beside him. By sunrise, the exodus stretched for miles. Families, livestock, carts, elders, and children moving steadily away from bondage. Freedom brought no immediate ease. Eliab felt its weight in every bundle, every tired step. Ahead, a towering cloud marked the route, guiding the column away from the shortest road and toward the wilderness. Natan watched the distant cloud and asked the question many were thinking. Where was this unfamiliar road taking them? Eliab could not answer.
I do not know.
But he knew what mattered for now. Stay together, follow the line, and keep moving. At a fork in the road,
the turn
the
tight.
leaders turned south, steering the immense column away from Egypt's fortified northern frontier. Hour after hour, the people crossed open country, learning that freedom also meant heat, dust, fatigue, and trust. When night came, families rested beside small fires, while a distant fire-like column remained ahead as a guiding presence. At dawn, the camp woke, repacked, harnessed animals, and became a moving column once more. Then the land narrowed, and water appeared in the distance. From a rise, Moses, Aaron, and Miriam saw the sea spread across the horizon, while the column continued arriving behind them. Natan stared at the water ahead,
There is water.
realizing that the road they had followed now seemed to end at the shore. Moses led the households down onto the coastal plain, where carts slowed in the sand and families began making camp. Nahshon and Miriam organized the resting places by household, keeping clear paths between carts and families together. For the first time since leaving, the people truly slowed, drinking, tending animals, lowering burdens, and listening to the surf. At the waterline, Moses studied the open sea, while Aaron assured him that, for this night, the people could rest. So the immense camp settled at the sea, Egypt behind them, open water ahead, and no visible road through it yet. Nahshon searched the coastline, but cliffs blocked every escape. There was no path around the sea. No one made camp. Then they saw dust rising far behind them. Pharaoh had changed his mind. Egypt was coming.
Moses! The Egyptians have followed us! Why did you bring us here?
Were there no graves in Egypt?
The boy asked if the soldiers would find them. His mother held him close and said nothing. "Do not be afraid," Moses said. "Stand still. The Lord himself will fight for you." Moses stood alone before the sea. He had no road, no boats, only the God who sent him. Then the pillar moved behind Israel, standing between them and Egypt throughout the darkness of night. Egypt could come no closer.
My Pharaoh! We cannot cross this wind! Then do whatever it takes! Find a way through!
God told Moses, "Tell Israel to move forward. Stretch your hand over the sea and divide it." Moses walked toward the water. Behind him, the people rose silently and watched him approach the sea. Moses stretched his staff over the sea. Then from the east, a powerful wind began to rise. All night, the strong east wind drove against the sea, pushing the water steadily backward. Hour after hour, the sea withdrew until the seabed itself appeared beneath the roaring wind. Then the waters divided, revealing dry ground between two towering walls of water. Nahshon stepped onto the seabed first. The ground held beneath him, and he kept walking. Then all Israel entered the sea, families, children, livestock, and carts moving together across dry ground. For hours they crossed, with towering walls of water standing on both sides of the people. Moses remained at the entrance, watching his people pass until the last families entered the sea. When the cloud lifted, Pharaoh's army saw the open road and charged into the sea after Israel. Then their wheels sank and horses struggled. The Egyptians cried, "The Lord is fighting for Israel!" At last, Israel reached the far shore, while Pharaoh's chariots remained trapped deep inside the sea. God told Moses to stretch out his hand again. Moses turned toward the sea and obeyed. Then the waters returned, covering Pharaoh's chariots and army until none remained in the passage. Morning came, and the sea was calm again. Israel stood silently, realizing they had survived. Miriam lifted her drum and sang, "Sing to the Lord, for he has triumphed gloriously." Egypt was behind them. The wilderness lay ahead. But they were free, and God was leading them onward.